back to the channel, and we are with our final two playthroughs of the World Cup competition. It feels like this has been going for a little while. And we're going to start with the final one. I wanted to see this one last night, back to back with Q's, but it just all got too late after dinner. So here we are, Rangers, which is Hutchinson Prairie. Now, he's someone who I picked out ages ago. I remember I reviewed one of his first submissions and really loved it. And he's always been on the cusp in contests and it's just not quite getting, I think, where he would like to be. Certainly, I really liked his CC course in lots of aspects. It was just too punitive for CC. It's that kind of thing where it's just like, just not quite nailed one aspect. Now this one, white tees, defaults are preferable for conditions. Prairie dunes inspired, so the prairie is the main part of the course. Prairie grass is massively taller than typical meadow grass. Areas not near typical landing areas may have tall grass. Yep, I did black salt. I know about this. Prairie dunes without the saucer bunkers, more elevation changes. Cool. We are looking forward to this. Is there going to be another stream for first round judging? So, yeah, there should be. Let's just pop some winds on. We're going to go medium and we're going to go south. And everything else, default, obviously. And pin 4. Hello, Matt. Yeah, so the plan is that I'm hoping we'll get most group results in by Sunday. But there's going to be a few that are really close. So I want the whole judging panel to be going through the ones that are like where not all judges necessarily agree. So that probably takes me to midweek next week. And then we'll have results out then, and I plan to stream group results, and then probably round of 16 and quarters, and then semi and finals. Because that works, I think, quite neatly. It's how Q and Dan did it last year, I want to say. So yeah, okay. Very expansive plots, which means you will have to be careful with planting. There's, I want to say, more trees than prairie dunes, but I'm definitely okay with that. Well, it helps that because we've had the extended publish window, we've been able to get through courses quite quickly. So you were only really waiting on the last few. Okay, I feel like just flying around, I'm not going to see a huge amount. We've got some grass, we've got a building, and another little building, and just stuff, and grass, and it's a nice big plot. And so, I mean, expansive would be the word I'd use. We've got some water down there, which I guess is just taking up some space. Yeah. Sheds, gotta have sheds. Cool. I don't think this is going to be a plot that we need to fly around too much, and that's not a knock on the plot, it's just this is what it is. Yeah. And little bandstands quite a lot around the place. And a ticket building for a clubhouse. Love a ticket building. Quite a simple clubhouse. Very simple clubhouse, actually. Not that we really care. And playground stuff, which feels odd, but I don't really care, but it feels odd. Anyway, we're going over to here. So, okay, first hole, if we... Oh, it starts swinging. So we want to play this way and we get the angle, but bunkers cut in at 330, but the further left we go. Basically, if you hit this way, you lose the angle, but you get the distance. If you hit this way, you keep the angle, but you might run out. With this wind, I can definitely carry it. I like the green site. I like the contouring on it. Actually, yeah. No, I do like the green sloping here a lot. Things I might have looked to do would have been, it's like you're kind of playing with this little diagonal ridge line. And I feel like if you mounted it up or dropped it off a little bit sharper in areas, just like you're hinting at it with the bits of sculpting here, I'd just go a little bit more aggressive in spots. Otherwise, I like this. Okay. And there's a little bit of slope, which makes driving this gap just a bit more complicated. If we are to land here, then we're risking rolling into the bunker. Which we're going to do. Fine. Sea hazard. Hitting hazard. Okay. The grass you did mention is big. Thank you, Matty. I knew you wouldn't let me down. The grass you've used is big. I think you've kind of used a few highlight grasses, but they're very sparse and they kind of get washed out in the rest of this. It would be really good to vary this one. When you use just the one, it can get kind of monotonous quite quickly, especially when it's on brown rough as well. Like you haven't got a texture change anywhere. Like it's just when you're off the golf hole, there is grass. And like the more you can do to differentiate and raise that a bit, the better. Oh, and there's our bad tempo. Still, I do like the green. Yeah, because it's like you can see it started out as like a high tier, slightly lower tier, bottom tier, but it's smoothed out a little bit. It's got little interesting wrinkles. This runoff here is good. This one's here's good. I like that you've tried to raise this. Just make it do a little bit more. Have a few of the beads push back in. Have this drop off a little more violently. Stuff like that. But it's good. As someone who I think has often kind of gone overboard with your green sculpting in contests, I want to say the National Treasure one a couple of years back. It's one that sticks out. Okay, 2, par 3. Big dunesy bunkers. Sorry, we're going to get a lot of coughs. And when you have done the underbrush planting, that's a chance for you to break it up. So like these trees, this is huge. The ones just above it are pretty big as well. Try to use fewer of these objects and keep them a little smaller, and you'll get a much better effect generally. It is always fighting a little bit of a battle with those. As for the waste bunkers, yeah, they're done pretty well. You can get a bit more ragged with the edges still, make it a little bit more random and look windswept, but generally fine, I think. You have mentioned about the grass sizes. I understand where you're coming from. You do still need to scale these down a little bit more, like taper it from really large up here and just make it small here because it just looks a little bit big on this side in particular. This side much better. You can see these ones are a little smaller. Just keep that in mind, and I know it's a pain. Now the green itself, so kind of side on diagonal, asking basically club selection questions. I don't mind it. There's something a little missing for me. I'm not really sure what it is. Of the numerous uphill par threes we've had in this contest, though, I will say this is one of the better ones. I think it's executed really nicely. The waste bunker on the right and the one on the left are staggered really well. That kind of hides the elevation change. Like if you'd asked me to tell you this was 30 feet up, I don't think I probably wouldn't until I looked at it, which is a nice touch. There's a tempo. Okay, so we do have some other grasses back there, the browner ones. That makes a difference. Try to clump those a little bit more, so like you just have a big browner section rather than necessarily spreading them out quite as much. But yeah, planting here I think is better than on the first. Just there's a bit more variety going on, which tends to be the case around par threes. Because it takes us less time to plant them, right? Kind of, you don't lose the will to live. Okay, 3. I feel this hole has a lot of potential and it's just not. Okay, green's a bit similar to the first for a start. And like the concept's kind of similar to the first. Like, in fact, it's very samey with the first hole. Like, it's. Yeah. 1 second. Okay, interruption number 1. Other than hitting over the hill, it's basically the same shot values. It's just the same hole, but in a different location, really. Except you get a more... I guess on the first one, you kind of gain the angle from going up this way. Maybe it's slightly different. I don't know. It feels too similar for me. I also think with the land you've got, I don't know. I feel like there's a more interesting hole here. I'm just going to hit a 3-wood there and hopefully stop short of the bunkers. Thanks, Rory. Yeah. You can't hear the blurbs. Oh, I know why. I turned desktop audio off. Sorry. Play it again. My mistake. Yeah, I would just like a little bit more variety in the grass planting and colours, or it broken up a bit more.
This is the worst thing I ever seen.
Thanks, Vike. That's not the one we were after, but that's okay. Oh, and we've pushed apart. Horribly past. Yeah. This is why we don't try to sort stuff. It's fine. Okay, 4. I think you're getting there with the sculpting with this.
Back and go shot.
That is fair. But this kind of feels... This mound feels like it comes a little bit out of nowhere because it's very flat over here. It's not it's really sloping hills. If you look at it, it's like big land movement. There's nothing big and rugged, and then suddenly you've got the elephant in the fairway, which we don't really have that anywhere else. You have scaled the grasses much better here than on that par 3. I think part of this, and there's a couple of others who I've said this to, there's got to be a medium between here and here. You can't just do everything as giant. Like, do this layer, then go back and do it a little bit bigger, then a bit bigger, etc. We're at the... everyone submitted courses for the groups, so we're waiting on judging for that, really, which won't be too long, I don't think. Right. I like the green. The runoff and the little spine that can feed a ball close is nice. Yeah, this works well. I think I probably just want to play this way, right? Let the wind push it into the side of that. That kicks it back down to the flat. Get a bit more of an angle to use this. My thinking. Of course, I'm right between clubs, which always seems to happen. Yeah, fine. We'll go with this. I like the bunker layering here. This is the best looking approach shot on the course. I like the... yeah. Everything sitting a bit flatter really helps. We bailed. Well, not the place to end up. Interesting green. Was needed for this hole. It had to do something. Okay, 5. This green's more a bit... I don't know. I was going to say similar to the first. It kind of is, but it's kind of on that angle, and then you've still got the high tier, slightly lower tier, front tier. Okay, we'll try and hit a draw around the corner. Slow doesn't help, so we don't get the little speed slot. And remain on a sloping lie. Not ideal. Oh no, it's trying. Still very sloping, but that's all right. Whereabouts am I in the fairway? Feels maybe a bit punitive in that I don't think I can ever get the really good angle to get at this pin. Especially not with this wind. I guess maybe if I took that on all the way down the left. How far over am I? I'm pretty far to the left. I can't get much further. You'd be looking at it from about here. Yeah, I guess. And I don't really have a shot there, unfortunately. Yeah, same thing with massive grass. This is, I know what you're saying about the scaling, but this is right in front of the tee, and like you can lower that, just make it a bit smaller because it does look a bit big. I'm preferring the blending of grasses here. I think this one, because you've used more trees on the course so far than some other courses that have attempted this stuff. This hole, which I think is a nod to one on Prairie Trees, I just don't know it. This makes more sense because it doesn't feel like it's come out of nowhere. A little bit more kind of underbrush helps. Like the fact that it's not just grass makes a big difference to the look here. And I think kind of been missing that intermediate stuff a little bit. Dead flat. This slope in front feels a bit penal, just maybe overly harsh. It's a short hole. I'd have probably just, if you'd stop this here, I'd be all fine with it. It's just coming right from the pin. Plus, I've got a bad wind. That doesn't really impact play too much either. Nope, not high enough. Hey, 7. Yeah, the underbrush that you've done, I think we need to do a little bit more than just 2 big trees drop down. And with your mixing grass, kind of needs to be more of it and bigger. And the blending one you've used, you can see all the little light ones, but it's not really having a massive impact from the tee because they're not clumped together and the brown renders better. Making them a bit, you need to make these ones a little bit bigger than this because the yellow part doesn't quite extend so far. But it's a good grass for blending, certainly. Same thing with the sculpting as before. Like we've got very, very smooth drops and elevations, and then really smooth here, and then it's suddenly we've just gone mad with like raises and lowers. Like that does jerk me out a little bit of the round because you don't have it really anywhere else. If you're going to go for this, it's kind of got to be doing that pretty much everywhere. Not totally undulated, but anyway. Staying up this side gets us a little bit better angle. Pseudo beer it. The green contouring works well. The green contouring has been strong on the course so far. Don't mind light rough. Oh, okay. Oh, it's really long. And we do have a bunker just to like split the fairway a little bit more. I'd kind of like us to do a little bit more with the second shot if you're laying up rather than just you hit it here and try and avoid the bunkers. I actually think it would be quite a cool green to run the fairway up this way or like think about What if you're coming at it from this way or here? Because with this, you've got so much space to play with. Like, you could be putting the fairway pretty much anywhere you want. Right. What about if you had a diagonal bunker here, a little bit of fairway down here, and then running the rest of it up here? One bunker this side, and then it's kind of like you can lay up here, but downslope and pitching down the green, stuff like that. I think would add more interest rather than just straight at it. But I appreciate that this side I'm behind a bunker, higher up I'm not. The same's kind of true with the underbrush blocking the edge of the plot round here. Like, we can take a bit more time with this, with the ashes behind here, and then your elm's sunken down, right? It's fine. It's accomplishing what you want it to do. But in a contest where everyone's putting out really, really good planting and really, really good courses, stuff like the background here, you'd want to clean up a little bit. Okay, take that. Yeah, I remember that. I feel like you have a bit of a propensity to do this with par fives, where it's just we really pinch the tee shot, so you lay up and you have a longer approach. I feel like the LACC one did this a couple of times, if memory serves. Again, strategically, I get it. It's effective. Is it the most like exciting shot? I'm not sure. I think we can. If you are going for a narrows, I would typically like. Can we turn it more on an angle? Can we offer? I don't know. It's the really part of it's just the really really wide to the really really narrow straight away. This feels a bit awkward. Oh, oh yeah, I'm sitting quite a way away from people. Whoops. Yeah, scaling stuff on the grasses as well. Like, I guess this one's not typically meant to be seen, but you can go small around here and then the big stuff mixed in a little bit further to render. Like, it's time consuming, but it's doable. So that 3-iron entered about 20% up the grass. I do. It's a shame I didn't get to play the approach shot because I do like the disconnected green. It's doing something different. I like the bunker short of the green. Green slopes, yeah, it's kind of two-tiered, but you've given it interest with how you've done the spine at the back that then feeds away if you're a little too long. I appreciate that. I might have tried to do something a little more interesting than just the one tier across here, though. Like, could we make this a compartment or a little bowl this side, or flatten down here so it's more consistent slopes, I guess. Sit. Thank you. I think the par 5 approach shots have been good so far. We've just gone back-to-back fives as well. Back-to-back fives worked. They were very different in how they played. A few things I'd have cleaned up. Really, honestly, I kind of feel like tee shots are the main thing I'd clean up rather than the approaches. Undulations here work better. Because this one is tied in with the side of the fairway, which always helps, and that helps this one to work. But again, I'd still be looking at like, what can we do down here, given that this is dead flat, and then really undulating. Like, you need that middle ground. It's kind of true with the planting too. And actually, and looks like copy paste has missed a spot. I kind of said the same with Axel's course. It's like tie-ins and like how do you progress from the just make sure your fairway sculpting works with everything around it and your planting works with everything around it, and it will kind of make sense with what it's. Yeah, I'm explaining this badly. I did it better on his video. I like the green site. I like the bunkers. I'm kind of confused why it's mounded this way, and I feel like this green should all be falling this way. And it would make way more sense and be more dangerous. I kind of like it on the saddle, but you've got a really big dip, and we're not really bringing that into play, which feels a shame. Yeah, somewhere. And what's online? Just needed half a club more. I think the real problem you have with a course like this as a choice is it's going to be very hard to keep planting varied, and so the golf needs to be really, really good because the planting's all kind of the same. Or you need to go crazy on the detail planting. I love the green and the way you've run it in from the left. Kind of like all of the par fives so far. I really like the approach shot. I just dislike the tee shot and where we put a bunker in the trees. And I feel like I can get past it, so it's not too much of an issue. But it just feels really heavy-handed when you've got so much of the plot that you can use. Like, why would it go there? This is a fun approach though. Like obviously the lighting is giving it a lot. I really making those contours pop, but it's because of the contours that it looks good. It's because of what you've done there. Same thing with these. Like these are all giant and just like fewer of them and etc. Same stuff. Technically, you've got a few little spots in the bunker that need another brush or flattening out. Generally fine. Right. Where on earth do we land this? This is fun. I think there. Oh, not there. See bushes hit into bushes. Maybe. Fun thing with a green complex like this is you do always have a recovery shot. Can't be too upset by that. Okay, what other pins do you have? I think I might have simplified the compartments. You've got enough going on with this slope that you don't need to then go. Like, I'd almost remove the backstop because you want people to run the ball in from this side. I think I'd have lost this part and just made this flat. That would have been the green kind of about perfect. Ah, shame. Nearly. Hey, worship. Yeah, all good. Okay. Okay. So this one's a miss. You've already done the really uphill par 3. I don't really think you need to do it twice. The aforementioned issues with the bushes being giant. We do have a sea of grass, it doesn't really have highlights or different types of grasses, and could really use them. The grass would also really pop in this lighting. I don't love that we've got no idea where we're going over the bunker, and then it's a green that is really precise. Like, part of why the Dell hole works is kind of, I guess, can you see the flag stick? It's hard to tell. I don't think you can for this one. And it's sitting right on a spine that demands really precise placement, but you can't really see the spine or where it is. Honestly, just lose the bunker. Lose the bunker, bench in a couple of diagonal ones, like 1, 2, or 3, like go more Shinnecock with how the bunker placements are. Make everything go diagonally, show the flag, show the putting surface, and I think it's a really good hole. But you've also already done the uphill par 3, so you don't necessarily need to do that, but I'm less bothered by that part. It's the spine that we can't see and like all of this stuff, and yeah. I mean, yeah, it would just be tough to hit a shot to this pin and like you don't know where you're going, and then you get up and you're just like, oh right, the green's doing that, and the flag's here, and I had no idea about any of it. I get that we have scout cam, but this is designed as if we don't, or you wouldn't put the bunker there. Okay, we're doing back-to-back threes as well. So my thing with back-to-back fives or back-to-back threes, it always has to be like they have to be the best holes that you could have possibly found, and you wouldn't have given up either of them. I mean, I would have given up the first one. Let's have a little look at where we are in the plot, just because how else might we have routed this? So, where are we? Okay, so we just played this one. And before that, we'd played this one. Okay, so you could have moved your tee back here, and like that then becomes tee shot over here, green perched up here, something like that. I prefer this one. You can combine both holes and made it. I mean, if you combine both holes, I think you've got an extraordinarily good par five. It's maybe a little tight on the angle, but you could shuffle your tee a little bit further out. Par four, probably. Could be moving a green further down here. I'm not sure this necessarily warranted back-to-back threes. The other thing is you've also done this idea of the green literally 2 holes ago. So it's kind of like, don't get me wrong, I love the idea. I said the same 2 holes ago. Now I'm just like, well, the same thing, really. I do appreciate we've gone wedge and then long shot. That makes sense. The bunker to the right of the green looks very different to the others we've had. Just unadorned by grass, which is different. Not something I'm necessarily disliking. Nearly. So yeah, on its own, in isolation, solid par 3. But when you combine it with the kind of holes we've had before, I think we've done similar things. Same stuff about grass scaling. Like, yes, I know you mentioned prairie grass, but this is too big to be too close to the player. Yeah, I do like the green site, and kind of the contouring is really interesting. Okay, so we want to be more this way. Which one? Green chip's interesting. I can't help but feel like you've got such good land movement on the plot, and I don't feel like the tee shots have really made the most of it, or like being that in the long three. Yeah, yeah. I didn't dislike it as a whole, but the bunker is certainly very different. And like, I guess actually the whole hole felt very different. Oh, go on. I like that it defends nicely against the pitch shot. I don't know. I'm not sure we totally. Well, I'll come back to it at the end. Okay, underneath the trees again. And we have an access road, and oh, okay. Why are we doing this? Okay. Zoom out. So out of bounds, and when it should and shouldn't be used. You have a giant property. like where, and this access road you could be putting literally anywhere. It's not straight, it's kind of curved to go deliberately near the fairway. uh, this is manufactured out of bounds that is purely there to be in play off the tee shot. It just immediately just jolts you out of it. I get it, but this is not the course to try this idea on. I'm pretty certain. I don't know Prairie Dunes all that well, but I can say hand on heart, I'm pretty sure that there won't be a road hole in it because it's got acres to play with, and why would you create a safety risk and put a hole right by a road? Not saying the idea is bad, but on this course the idea is bad. Yeah, and it is out of bounds, isn't it? And like, yeah, it's executed well enough. And it tilts us towards this, and like technically the spline work and the fence work could be done a little bit neater. But like, yeah, that's hopefully a good enough explanation of why I don't think this really works. Green also feels kind of more modern. It's not the natural humps and hollows. Like this spine feels a bit more manufactured. The sculpting around it again could just use a little bit more subtle mounding. Well, we'll take it on. I'm intrigued. Okay, so hit this side. Okay, get a better kick that time. Possibly a little bit harsh for hitting inside the out of bounds to bounce out. Like, I can't say I'm massively fond of that because you wouldn't see it from the tee. But yeah, I can live with it. I don't love the pin either, I'm afraid, because there's no way to land it and get it anywhere close, and if you do, it's blind luck because there's no space either side of this to play it, which automatically turns it into a 3-shot hole, which, yeah. Well, I mean, I've got to go for it because I'm 3 off the tee, which is fine. I think this feels like...
No, 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 no. What is this t-shirt?
Yeah. He does like that one. It's one of his favourites. It originally had more no's, but I thought blurps only timed out after 5 seconds. That hole is one where I think you need to take a bit. I think a lot of this is you need to take a bigger picture view. But with that hole in particular, it's got to be like, does this fit on this course? And there's a lot of ideas on that one that just don't think do.
Fire.
That's another one of his favourites. Okay, we're blending grasses much, much better. This is great. I kind of wish there'd been more of this. It feels like the course was planted in a couple of stages. And like there's the stages where we were doing more of the grass blending and it works better. He gets very excited. And then there's the stages where it was just brown everywhere, and I suspect it was just like a get me done. At this point, I do remember that you did say that you had a corruption.
Maybe your best course.
Is fucking garbage.
Yeah, that's a favourite. I do remember at this point you definitely are fighting time. I've had a lot of conversations with lots of different people. You definitely were fighting time because you had a corruption along the way, so I kind of understand, and I suspect this is probably more like what the planting was meant to look like the whole way around. Which, if so, is a bit of a shame because it looks really that looks much better than my eye. So that would make a bit more sense. I also think this hole works. Yeah, planting around here is much better. There's still a little bit of missed sculpting with the bunker, but like scaling's better here as well. Yeah. As for this one, there's definite danger of going for it and missing. Uh, 36 feet up. What, going 10 short? Maybe bouncing through that, maybe not. Let's just hit a low driver and hope. Well, there we go. That got the bounce. Oh, come on. That's a fun shot. I'm not normally the biggest fan of sub 340 or like so drivable fours, but I think this one works really well. At least to that pin, certainly. And yeah, I'm just hoping you haven't done a pin up here. Enjoyed that. But also, there's enough good reason on that hole 2 layup because you have the fairway to the right of it, and that gets you a better angle. Okay, this is a long par 4 tee shot. Good punch ball green makes sense. Bunker in front of it looks good. I think generally the like less dunesy ones have looked better. Like more low profile ones I've really liked. Visually off the tee, I don't know if I'd have needed the centerline bunker on a long hole. I'm not sure. So the green is really, really good. Nicely contoured. A lot of the greens have been actually. There's been one big miss, I'd say, which was that the road hole par 5. Otherwise, I think they've been really good. And this sightline's great. The amount of times I get stuck between 3-iron and 5-iron. But ample opportunity to run a ball in there and get it relatively close. Which again, I appreciate. That's like, I have a nitpick on the tee shot, but I think it's kind of a common message. I think the approach shots have been really good. Really like this one. Lighting obviously helped. Planting helps. I don't know that I love this bunker. I'd have done more of your grassy bunker that you've done on the previous that I liked. But where the green sits is nice. Could have probably used another bunker somewhere this side, like, or one behind it. A little bit more bunkering. It's maybe a little plain around it, but where it sits and what it's doing is good. So this is quite long as well. We can go straight at it, right? Again, grass planting currently is looking way better. I'm guessing you were really running out of time towards the end. I can't remember the entirety of our conversations. Yep, agreed. I'm going to put a lot of this, and this land movement's much better as well because like it all ties in. The ridgeline works. The little humps and hollows kind of make sense a bit more. I feel like a lot of this is a time issue, and now I remember about the corruption, that would kind of make sense. Green's good as well. Maybe a little. Feels like there's a really good green site here, and then the back bit's kind of like an extension. Almost wonder whether you could have gone smaller green and like put a bunker or something around the back, or a bit more of, or done a bit more of this sort of sculpting. But, and, I feel like I can probably bounce down, right? Sort of. A little bit blinding to finish, but sometimes we can't avoid that. Yeah. Plus, I appreciate I've kind of cut the corner a bit more than maybe you're anticipating. And actually, given the lighting, you've done well to avoid this until now. Okay. Oh, come back. Ooh. Actually pretty solid as a round goes after the kind of early struggles. All right. I had a lot of thoughts on that one, and it kind of all clicked when I remembered about the corruption because I think that makes a ton of sense, and like it explains a lot of what was going on. Um, there's a lot of holes I enjoyed. I would say the main thing I would want you to look at is the tee shots because they just, I don't know, they're functional, but they're not really. The land movement isn't quite harnessed in the way that it could be. Um, they're often a little bit similar or choking down, and sometimes we have the unnecessary bunkers, such as on 16, as well. I think your main stuff is big picture things. So, like looking around and what have I done on this hole, and therefore have I done this idea? A really good example is that long par 312, which followed, and it was basically the exact same major green feature as 10. Um, so stuff like that. Um, additionally, as we talked about the planting, I think the rush kind of makes sense with that. And given the concept that you had, it was always going to be you were always going to be tough up against it if you had a crash doing that. Some of the hole designs were really good. There's only the one that was just a complete miss for me, and that was 14. Although I didn't love 11 either. I wouldn't call that a complete miss. I think that was salvageable. It just needed that bunker removing, splitting up, lowering, being made visible. Whereas I think 14 never stood a hope of fitting on this style of course. I like the 18th. That kind of used the so some of the holes used the land movement really nicely. I thought 18 did. I thought 4 did. And generally, and your par 5 approaches generally 7 was a good example. 8 was a good example. I think they're some of the best. You're really good at crafting the approach shots. It's just got to be going back to the tee now and kind of finding a tee shot that really fits and gets you to that place. Um, Planting when it was what you wanted, I think it was really good. Um, yeah, so lots of positives. I think this is going to be a really interesting group for us to judge because you've got um, Scottishes and this, which have gone all out kind of on visuals. Scottish got the Mackenzie style bunkers. You've got a lot of like big bold stuff on here. Then you got Q's, which is really understated, and then I can't remember what the fourth one is. Is it a Silliman? No, it's the one I'm going to play next. I think it's the no. I've got my judging thing open. Final one on this one is Duckers Chop Match Club, which is just also big and bold and grassy. Um, yeah, like 4 really good courses that all could progress and might have progressed a year ago. Like this is going to be one that we deliberate over quite a lot, which has been interesting. So yeah, but I really enjoy. Like, there's lots of that I really enjoyed, and I'm kind of looking forward to playing more rounds on these and splitting them, and kind of not because 2 of them are not going to go through, and that kind of sucks. But yeah, okay, I'm going to cut the stream now, and we're going to be back in 1 minute, and we're going to play our final one. See you in a second.